So I'm like, fuck it. Let me do the thing that I think is the amazing version of this. You know, the thing could blow up, the thing could bust, but I'd much rather make the thing I'm gonna make because nothing's guaranteed.
Welcome to Bitch Talk. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm co-host Ange, aka Captain Party.
2026 brings us into our 13th year of podcasting, and we're proud to be here. Thank you to our followers and longtime listeners for voting us Best of the Bay Best Podcast for 3 years in a row, and to SF Film for adding us to the respected list of essential SF winners.
If this is your first time listening, where the hell have you been? But better late than never. We're like if the rap group Salt and Peppa met the show Grace and Frankie and had a baby. And if you don't understand what that means, ask Jeeves. And now, on with the show. Clink!
All right, Bitch Talkers. This has been months, years, decades, I don't even know, in the making.
Decades in the making. Let's say it started in the 90s.
Yeah. This started in the 90s. We're sitting down at the beautiful CL Creative Space in Berkeley, and we're sitting with writer, director, producer, musician, hip-hop icon, Boots Riley.
What's up?
Of I Love Boosters.
What's happening?
Welcome to Bitch Talk formally.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like we've done this a few times already.
In the last week.
Yeah, live in person. But for our audience first, can you introduce I Love Boosters if they haven't seen it?
If you haven't seen it, it's a family comedy about shopping.
I was going to laugh out loud when you said family comedy. Is it? Is that the log line?
No. I mean, what I will say about it is that it takes place in it follows a group of professional female shoplifters, which we call boosters when you do it professionally. That sparks an adventure from there. And so if you're in for that aspect of it, it will, it'll take you on an odyssey from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's so much to say about this film, and we're definitely going to deep dive into it, but I think it's important for the audience to sort of understand your roots in order to fully understand the power of this film and you as an artist. So can you give us a little preview of your childhood and what drew you to your voice as an artist, as an activist, etc.?
And I wasn't meaning that because if people haven't seen it by now, whatever, it's four weekends in, so I don't mind spoilers. But
perfect. I'm just kidding.
But let's see, when I was 12, I wanted to be Prince, but I didn't want to practice as much as it would take to do that. But I was into music. I was playing music, and then by the time but Prince had saved me from maybe I was having a 12-year-old psychotic episode because I was like really into comic books, and I decided I was going to be a superhero. I decided I was going to, I was doing gymnastics and martial arts, and I was going to heighten my senses and like fight crime. So I would have become a cop, right? Like, and that based on all the stuff I was taking in from the comic books and all of that, that's where it was lead me to. Prince saved me from that. And then at the age of 14, somebody pulled up in front of my house with a van full of 14-year-old girls and said, "You want to go to the beach?" And I was like, hell yeah. And they were like, yeah, well, first we're going to go support the Watsonville cannery workers strike. And so, and in that car, in that ride, which an hour and a half is a lot longer when you're 14, right? I was hearing them talk about stuff that was on the news, stuff that I had tried to ignore or successfully ignored because it just seemed like it had nothing to do with me. It seemed like it was nothing I could do about it. So, whatever, Reagan's on TV or something like that. What does that matter? But these girls were clearly of the mind that there is something they could do about it. There was something they could do about it. And that was because they were involved in a radical organization called Progressive Labor Party, and that they saw instigating class struggle as the way to change the way things are. And so that made them pay attention to what was happening. And they had so I went on that van ride, starting wanting to flirt with those girls, ending up wanting to be them. Mm-hmm. And I got involved with supporting Watsonville Cannery Workers strike, and later on that summer, I joined the Summer Project, which was helping farm workers in McFarland, Delano, Wasco, Central California Valley, to organize a farm workers union called the Anti-Racist Farm Workers Union. Folks who had come from Mexico, were students in Mexico in the 60s, had to run from the massacre that had happened that they show a little bit in the movie Roma. And instead of just hiding, they wanted to continue the revolution. And so they were like, oh, we're going to join Cesar Chavez. And they as soon as they joined him, saw how it was not radical, and they were helping to deport undocumented workers. They were all that sort of stuff. So they broke off and made their own thing. And then years later, I came and helped them. And so that was under but while we were there, we had heard about years before there had been Teatro Campesino, which was a radical theater group that would perform plays on flatbed trucks. So a lot of times they would tell us like, hey, you gotta, they'd have jobs for us. Like, okay, we're going, because the organizers were working in the fields. So they'd get up at 3 a.m. and leave out and be like, okay, when we get off work at noon, you're going to have to, have flyers ready. You're going to have the signs ready. You plan the caravan that's going to happen this afternoon going through the neighborhoods. You figure out blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And sometimes it would be like, okay, you two, you need to make a skit that happens on the flatbed truck right as we're coming out of the fields. And it would be something stupid like, or hard to do, like make a comedy in Spanish about how pesticides cause cancer.
Go. Improv.
And it should be 3 minutes long.
You're like improv. Yeah. Activism improv.
And, well, we'd be writing it beforehand, and it would be terrible. But people appreciated that, they just came off work, they're drinking some water, eating something, and they're seeing this thing, and they're appreciating that, but we knew it was terrible. And so so coming back from those summer projects, being there allowed me to grow in ways that I wouldn't have, because I was definitely a teenager worried about what was cool and what was not cool, and definitely with some of the younger folks in that organization being 28 and 30, they were old people, and I wouldn't have been caught around them at that age, and definitely not passing out flyers next to them or selling a newspaper or something like that. And so this allowed me, and plus since this was a summer project with a lot of teenagers from all over the country, it allowed me to kind of work in these ideas that I wouldn't have. So when I came back, I was fired up, and I helped organize a walkout at Oakland High, and came under attack really quickly for it. So I had all of this learning in a really quick time, and then that was so successful that I toured around the country at 15 talking about it to other youth groups and stuff. So it kind of, fast-tracked me in a certain way. And so I was also looking at how I could, through the theater thing, maybe theater was a way that it could be. And before that, it had been just an adult thing, because my grandmother ran Oakland Ensemble Theater in the late 70s, early 80s, and that was just boring grown-up stuff, like people sitting on a couch arguing or something like that. And, like the big dramatic moment would be a slap. And you find that actors of a certain age still, they demand a slap. They're like, should they slap me? Shouldn't, it's getting to a certain point, like, shouldn't they just let it out by slapping? Like, no, like that. Then I joined Black Repertory Theater, which was in Berkeley on Alcatraz. And it was a storefront theater, maybe, not much bigger than this space that we're in. And I was like, it's going to take a lot of 30 people shows to, help make a revolution. So that wasn't, going. And in order to try to get some of my friends involved in the organization, like we'd be having these anti-police brutality protests. And in the late 80s, those were very small, so I'd lie to them and be like, hey, you gotta come, you could rap at our anti-police brutality rally. It's gonna be blah, 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 there'll be crowds of people. And really, there was only gonna be 8 people there, right?
Still crowd, still audience.
And so my one friend who called himself Julius T. Poet, he was like, you know what? I'm only going to do it if you're my hype man. And so then he was, then I would be his hype man just so that I could get him to the rallies. And then I started asking him about how you do it, and because he was more of a freestyler. So, so all of that came together. Then Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing came out, and I went to San Francisco State, and one of the things that, then I ended up majoring in, it was under the communications department, but in film, yeah.
You did get into activism in a very Prince way. I'm just going to say that. You are Prince. You're still channeling Prince. But because you wanted to flirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring up Prince a little later, but he's in my notes and always with us. But then I think from there we can fast forward a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
I Love Boosters. That song came out in 2006, which is crazy. I'm like, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. So what is that journey from that song to now there's a film to match that song?
Well, yeah, and just for the folks who don't know anything about it, is while I was in film school, we got a record deal, and we made a bunch of albums, and I kind of switched over to doing music. And the song was really, there wasn't a direct line from the song to the movie. Just only insofar as a lot of times when I'm writing songs, for instance, or writing anything, I just have a notebook of like different ideas. Sometimes it might be small essays about a thing that I'm trying to work out. Sometimes it might just be a line, something that I think is going to be a good lyric, something that I think is going to be a good title for an album, or something that I think is going to be a good concept for a song. And those will all switch around. Like the thing that I thought was a good title for an album, sometimes that's a great lyric, and vice versa, or a good concept for a song that's only, part of a lyric or something like that. And so I have all these notebooks around, and often when I'm writing, I'll get to a certain point of a song, and I'll lose my fire for it. And I'm always working on multiple songs at the same time. So instead of just putting it down and waiting till I get the fire back, I'll work on a different thing, and that will open something up because it feels like a it's just a different mood, a different something. And so I'll be, some of this stuff is interchangeable because it's all going toward a similar thrust. And often it'll be me picking like a point in an idea or in the world and figuring out how I'm getting from this one point to this one larger idea that a lot of, my life is based around, which is, trying to figure out how to create a different world, a world in which the people democratically control the wealth that we create with our labor. And just so it doesn't seem like I'm trying to, put it in a different way, I am a communist. And that's how I would define part of what happens under communism. And so after having written Sorry to Bother You, I knew like, okay, if this does blow up, then I need to already be ready with what I want to do next. So a lot of it was just me thinking about and going back through those notebooks kind of, and being like, what was something I left on the table? Because some of the things that even in songs there'll be like a great song that was just something from years before that never made it into something else, and often it'll be me expounding on it and stuff. So I just thought that was a world. It was more that was a world that I thought was explored in, and that would be a good way to get into talking about all these ideas, and especially because it's a group of women that were being attacked often in the media. Mm-hmm. So,
mm-hmm. Well, you do tackle these really big issues in the most fun, vibrant, colorful way. I love your vision. There's no one that has a voice like yours out on the big screen. So can you talk about bringing joy and levity to such big, heavy topics?
I don't know. It's all the same thing to me. It's all, I think that the joy and levity is connected to the optimism, right? I think that there are things we can do to change the way things are. And so that gives me a certain outlook. And that makes me want to connect with a certain side of the life that it actually exists. So, for instance, I think that it takes a lot of work to not write a comedy, because life is so full of these ironies and contradictions, and also just the way life is. Things are funny. The longest I've been to jail is 3 days, and people are laughing in there with fucked up things happening in their life, right? And it's not that it's all laughter, but it's like it's just a part of humanity, and it's seeing those things. And when I see like something that's considered a drama, it feels like someone has purposely sucked the real humanity out of things sometimes, when it's everything's dry and somber the whole time, and often like if I'm depressed, or it's often because I'm not looking at the stuff that's right in front of me that is connected to something joyful and optimistic. And so I think that's so, and it takes work to filter all that out. So I think that so I think that's where that joy comes from, is just kind of being connecting it to a wavelength that has to do with possibility.
This isn't much of a question, but a follow-up to what you were just talking about. And I don't know if Ange remembers, but when we were lucky enough to do those last 2 Q&As with you, thank you so much for having us.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
That was fun, the back-to-backs. But we noticed, at least at the second Q&A at the Alamo, there was some cosplay going on at your movie. Like, people were dressing up to match the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
And how joyful is that?
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's just going to keep going. Really great to see all of that. And we've been having, like people, there's been, and some have more than others. There have been certain showings where the whole audience is just decked out. And, that's just been fun. And, the thing about it is, it's kind of, because we have the monochromatic things going on, it's a thing that people can do even without a lot of money for things. It's just the same color, something, or whatever. Or, and then if they have more time, they can mix and match or do some vintage sort of thing. And, so yeah, it's been fun to see people connecting with that.
Yeah, and on social media, I've been seeing a lot of that.
Oh,
People
yeah.
making rad videos, just doing the thing, yeah.
Yep.
I think it's also speaks to you as an artist that we've come to expect a certain thing when we're going out to see a Boots Riley project, when we're going to see a Boots Riley film, when we're watching But I'm a Virgo. So I'm curious to see what sort of things you've learned about yourself throughout your process as a director that has helped elevate your game, because you're only getting bigger.
Yeah, I mean, there's always things that you learn along the way, like, so for instance, on Sorry to Bother You, there's this part with all of these, where after he's smashed, done the thing where he's calling people and he's falling into their apartments, and he's dejected, and he sits back, and behind him the copy machine is broken and it's shooting out paper all over and all that, and I really wanted that in there as a visual, like as a visual connection to how he was feeling. But it took a long time to get that going, and it was like taking 30 minutes because the thing was messed up. And when you're doing indie film, we shot that whole movie in 26 days, 61 locations, right? So everything eats into something, and you're sacrificing something else. And so everybody was like, what are you doing? Why are we spending this much time on this quote unquote gag? I hate when they call it a gag, because it's, anyway, why are we spending all this time on a gag? Oh, this is an indie film. We gotta, and I pushed for it, and we kept holding on to do it, and it finally worked. But I felt kind of guilty, because it was like, damn, I gotta figure out how to get this time back somewhere else. But then I was like, okay, I spent all of this time doing this. I got to really make this moment mean something. So I sat there and I thought about, okay, what could we do? Okay, maybe we could connect it to the next thing. And what's the next scene? Have we shot that yet? Okay, we didn't. So then I had him say, "Oh, you're just going to stuff all those," and look over to his side and say, "Oh, you're going to stuff all those in your mouth." And that was because I was trying to make this part feel like something. And so then when we shot the next scene, then I had him stuffing all these fries into his mouth. And so it looked more connected, but it wasn't as amazing as maybe it could have been had I written it that way, right? And so so I did a lot of that when I wrote I Love Boosters, where there's, like she reaches over to the next scene and grabs a joint and smokes it and then passes it back. Things like that. Or in the edit with Sorry to Bother You, we had this opening iris thing when going from Squeeze and Cassius meeting to Tessa Thompson twirling a sign, and it did this sort of thing that I always call a "that's all, folks," but it's apparently called an iris opening. But
I like the other.
yeah.
We get it.
And so with this one, I wrote it in that, okay, they would do that, and it would they would be doing a cheers, and it would then go over their hand, and one hand would be sticking out, and then Sade would say, "Wait a minute," and then it would open back up. And so that was from like knowing what worked, it allowed me to write it in a way that worked better. So there are things like that, certain timing things that I was able to do, certain things that maybe were regrets from Sorry to Bother You. Like on Sorry to Bother You, Stephen Yeun does there's a stunt person that does the sign twirling thing, and he goes up on his, and there was a cut in to a close up of his butt where he was twerking that we didn't put in.
Oh, we're gonna need that.
Yeah,
Luke.
where's that? Where's that?
We won't
BTS?
share. It's just for our own private collection.
And it was more of like a where is the line, sort of a thing. And then I always have wondered, like, what if I put that in? What would, because then you're like, what would that do for the next laugh? And what would that, that sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. So I think with this, we had more of a trial and error process. So I was trying things more, like, we were doing a cut, showing it to people, and I was very aware of these things and thinking about, so with timing, it, got better in those ways. Also, I think there are things with Sorry to Bother You that that I think are fine, but a little bit were less clear. Then I was like, okay, that would be fine. If I were going to make thousands of movies, I think that would be fine. But I'm like, okay, I don't know how many movies, one, I'm going to get the funding to make, or two, that I'm going to be alive to make, right? Because it takes years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and then after figuring out how many years it takes, because Sorry to Bother You was, besides the, it was 7 years of trying to get it funded, but then once we shot it, we shot it and then we edited it in 10 weeks, and then it was out. But then everything else, once the budget gets bigger, then there's a longer process. And so with I'm a Virgo, I spent years on that, and then your life is just disappearing, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how many of, and the way production is that, and hopefully we can do more in the Bay Area, but one, you're isolated and stuff, so it really feels like you step into this time capsule and you lose all this time. And so I was like, fuck, okay, if that's what this is, then I need to do the most I can do with this. I need to I'm not thinking like a long game of like 5 movies in, I'm doing this, and I'm all, and that's how I've always made music as well. It's like, this might be my last album. This might, like, because I've never really been that committed to anything like a style or it's like with the Coup, people would come up to me at shows and have the logo tattooed and be like, look at this, and it would be amazing, but they'd then be like, well, where's yours? And I'm like, I'm not that committed to this shit, like who knows how long this is gonna be around, and so one, it makes me want to fight to make the best movie I can, but 2, I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do that isn't normally done, right? Like, who else is going to make a movie about class struggle that can? Like, there's maybe a lot of people that want to, but that also, have the years of making art, and then 2, have the ability to get it funded. So I'm like, okay, there's a certain responsibility there. And so separately, then the artist in me is like, well, I also, and these are 2 conflicting things. The artist in me is like, oh, I also want to do something that I haven't ever seen before, right? That pushes the medium. And again, like, and that's been like throughout, even with music, it's like, well, why not make a song that sounds exactly like a pop song, but has these particular ideas in it? And, it just has not interested me, right? So, even though I like pop songs, I like, regular heist movies or, sometimes. And, but I think the artistic ego is like, you want to see how you can push the art form, so there's one way to look at it. It was like, well, maybe that's not the broadest you could appeal, but then on the other hand, you see people trying to do a broad appeal and it hits no one, right? And so this, at least, I think people like something that's coming from someone's passion, coming from someone's. So that artistic ego, like, is like, okay, well, how do I, what form-wise, how do I like break rules and still make it work? And so I'm looking at those things, and luckily for me, I have a passion, a thrust of where I want it to go. So when I'm breaking rules, I can look at, does it still get me around to this one point that I want to get to? Whereas I think sometimes if an artist is like, I'm going to break rules, but they have nothing anchoring them, such as how they want people to feel, then it can just be anything all over the place, or what they want people to get from it. So yeah, because of learning from making those other things, so for instance, I'm a Virgo was something that would have been even more, fit more into a regular television show structure. But when I found out we had to cut like 40% of what was in the script 2 weeks before we were in production.
What?
Then I was like, okay, you guys want me to cut? I'm cutting all of this other shit out. They thought, oh, you're going to cut. Of course you're going to cut this psychic theater stuff. Of course you're going to cut because you're going to leave just these action things in or whatever. And so I cut, though, it was a choice of where to cut. And those choices, as it is always is in art, like define what the thing ends up being. And so we cut the penultimate episode, which was basically just an all action episode of them breaking into a power plant, and there was all of this stuff, and then the end, which was after the last psychic theater, which kind of put a different spin on the whole show. Okay, here was a situation where I was like, okay, I'm doing the thing I want to, but I'm putting it into a structure that is known and I still wasn't able to do that. So I'm like, fuck it. Let me do the thing that I think is the amazing version of this. And, like who knows, like it could all, the thing could blow up, the thing could bust. But I'd much rather make the thing I'm going to make, because nothing's guaranteed.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
We have to wrap, which makes me sad, but that's okay. We'll have you on again sometime. Part two. Yeah, many parts. But right. We do end Bitch Talk with a segment called This Bitch. You already know what that means, so you can shine a light on something, you could throw some shade on whatever, but who's your this bitch, or what is your this bitch right now, Boots Riley?
I would say a lot of this would have to do with Meta, the company, and we know a lot of the heinous things they're doing, such as surveillance and things. But I want to talk about one particular thing because it currently is one of the cracks we think we can get through. Right. So, for instance, for this movie, much of our marketing spend, as many indie movies are, was based on internet ads. Because they tell you on the internet ads, like, hey, you're spending this much, you've got this many impressions, right? Yeah. And so I was flagging early on that, with the Sorry to Bother You trailer, we had 8 million views and 1,200 comments. Maybe it's 2,500 comments. And then we were being told by you, so this isn't only Meta, but we were told by YouTube for the I Love Boosters one that, hey, you got 9 million views. And so it was like, wow. Then I looked, there's 200 comments. And I'm like, okay, so something's going on here. But, YouTube, Google is swearing like, no, this is true. This is real. There's no way to check your work, right? And then with Meta, the same thing was happening. I was like, it doesn't necessarily feel like a lot. If you're online, it feels like a lot of people know because the algorithm sends stuff to you. But I was knowing, because I was traveling around the country and seeing people in real life. I was seeing the limitations where I was like, whoa, how are these 20-year-olds only finding out about it because there's a flyer at their school? Like, even though this is so I was seeing those things. And then a couple people sent me notices saying, hey, I tried to post the trailer, and it told me it was supporting organized crime, so that they wouldn't. And there was nobody for us to talk to or anything like that.
Nobody works there.
Yeah. And so it's hard to know how many times this was happening, right? And then to know whether, and then the thing was, we bought ads and it didn't say that, but that they were muting it. But the thing is my stuff has been muted historically. Like on Twitter, I have like 180 something thousand, maybe before the movie came out, I had 170, but it was only getting to a tiny percentage of those folks. Instagram a similar percentage, and just kind of looking into it over the years. At one point, so there's a funny thing on Twitter where one time years ago I was like, I didn't know what a twink was, and I was like, am I supposed to know what a twink is? And I got the answer, but later on that day, I was also seeing that my posts weren't going anywhere. And that and I said what actually happened was, I was like, my posts are not reaching people, so I'm wasting my time, and I quit Twitter at the time. And what we now know through Matt Taibbi's Twitter files, now he's gone right wing, and he was even right wing when he published those. And this is why they didn't talk about this part, is that, he only publicized the parts of it that talked about right wingers getting muted. But there was also the Biden administration, I think it was. No, it must have been, no, this would have been Trump.
Part one.
Yeah. And that when I was speaking out against the U.S. interfering in Venezuela in 2019, because before that, what was amazing with Sorry to Bother You is I do these things and it was getting a lot of interaction and all this kind of stuff, because Sorry to Bother You was considered, I think people thought it was liberal at first, like it was just protests or this or that. It was, who knows? So that's a different speculation. But I started speaking out against that. And what we do know is right at around that time, Twitter agreed to mute people that were speaking anything that was against what the U.S. was doing in Venezuela. And so it doesn't mention my name at all, but it says the Twitter files talk about doing these specific things to different personalities that were talking about that. So, and it goes right in line with all of a sudden in 2019, I wasn't reaching people anymore. And maybe it's gotten a little bit better since then, but, what I can do a post that gets like 50,000 if it's like the most popular thing that I ever put out or something like that, but that's rare. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't see your posts. So the point is that we have this idea, maybe even more so now, that what we're seeing online is a representation of, one, what everyone is seeing, two, of just ideas, of a free market of ideas or something like that. And maybe even worse than the surveillance is that what we see happening online, we think of as some sort of unfiltered idea of what everyone around us thinks. And we have some sense that maybe we're in some sort of, I hear people talking about we're in a bubble or whatever, but that even inside of that bubble, what we think that are the issues inside of the bubble that we're in. What we think are that other people think. That's being pushed toward us in a certain way. Certain things are being kept out. So in this case, money was spent on marketing this, and because it was spent on the internet, we were getting week after week. Very few people knew about the movie, and I think gets a lot. It's got good critical reviews, good audience reviews as far as that can be measured, and I think it will get popular over the years, but it's frustrating because now what it does is say, movie, made 10 million box office. So now then that's where the budgets get set for. So it's a what's funny is not funny, but so we've also had a lot of attacks against us in different ways, like from I Love Boosters is a psyop to get black women arrested for boosting. That's like actually a thing, like that I found out too late about, that where influencers were going on and saying this stuff, but it was seeded because I saw the right wing bots with like 0 followers saying that sort of thing. So I wasn't worried about that at the time, but then I didn't realize that it had picked up steam. So there's that. Then there's all sorts of things against it, like Annapurna funded 1% of the movie, and Annapurna is owned by Megan Ellison, and her father is Larry Ellison. And the crazy thing about that, and so people were like, don't go see it because of that. The crazy thing about it is the other movie we were competing against, Passenger, is a Paramount movie, fully funded by Larry, by Larry Ellison and David Ellison, and so it's not even about any of that. And then separately, whether you're talking about A24 or Disney, they've got more connection to funding Israel and all that kind of stuff. So all of these sort of opportunist things that are seeded by right-wing folks to say, don't see this piece of radical art, or people saying, just by the simple fact that it's funded by capitalists, it's not radical art. So I don't care whether you call it radical or not, but don't see this piece of art that happens to put forward the idea that we need a mass militant radical labor movement. So, there are all these things coming at it from all of these ways, and it's not like I don't know that this is the terrain, so I'm not like complaining, but what I don't like is that it's seen as if it had its fair time. And so therefore that is an indictment on the ideas and on the art of it. So I think folks should know that I think the movie should have performed better, and I think we were going up against all of these obstacles, and so to understand what that's about. So.
But you got the movie made.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's one of the biggest obstacles right now.
Yeah.
It's
really.
out there, and it's screening. This episode's going out right before it's screening at the Castro tomorrow for everybody in the Bay Area. Go check it out at the newly open Castro Theater.
Okay.
So
is it like removable seats or
That's
something?
That's what we
Yes.
heard. You'll have to tell us.
Okay.
We haven't been there yet.
All right.
But thank you so much, Boots Riley.
All right, thank you for
all
having
your work.
me, Bitch Talk Podcast.
Thank you. Go see I Love Boosters in theaters now. It's all around the country still. It's going to be at the Roxy as well in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah,
So I know
you
can still see it in a screen in a theater. Thank you for being on Bitch Talk, and thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. All right. Peace.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. You can find more information about this episode in our show notes.
If you're missing us, you can visit us at bitchtalkpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter and buy us a cup of coffee.
Did you know we're also on the radio? You can find us at bff.fm.
And lastly, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All the cool bitches are doing it.